Reminder, Escape Pod's Flash Fiction Contest is open for submissions right now. Give us your best story in 500 words or fewer. You have until April 30th to enter. Contest winners will be decided by vote in our community forums. Anyone is welcome to participate.
Escape Pod, Episode 624, Fandom for Robots, by Vina G. Minutes Prasad.
Hello, and welcome to Escape Pod, your weekly science fiction podcast. I am your host this week, Tina Connolly, and I am here to bring you Fandom for Robots by Veena Chiaman Prasad. This story first appeared in Uncanny. Veena Chiaman Prasad is a Nebula-nominated Singaporean writer working against the World Machine. Her short fiction has appeared in Clark's World, Uncanny Magazine, and Fireside Fiction. You can find links to her work at veenaprasad.com. Born in Texas and transplanted to California, Trendane Sparks has had jobs ranging from army medic to veterinary technician, freelance clown to kids show puppeteer. Nothing has ever made him so happy as voice acting. From video games to narrating stories, voice performers are conduits of magic and imagination. So get ready to hop on the Hyperwarp fan train because it's story time.
Fandom for Robots by Veena Chiaman Prasad. Computron feels no emotion towards the animated television show titled Hyperdimension Warp Record. After all, Computron does not have any emotion circuits installed, and is thus constitutionally incapable of experiencing excitement, hatred, or frustration. It is completely impossible for Computron to experience emotions such as excitement about the 7th episode of Hyperwarp, hatred of the anime's short episode length, or frustration that Friday is so far away. Computron checks his internal chronometer, as well as the countdown page on the streaming website. There are 22 hours, 5 minutes, 46 seconds, and 12 milliseconds until 2 a.m. on Friday, Japanese Standard Time. Logically, he is aware that time is most likely passing at a normal rate. The Simac Robotics Museum is not within close proximity of a black hole, and there is close to no possibility that time is being dilated. His constant checking of the chronometer to compare it with the countdown page serves no scientific purpose whatsoever. After 50 milliseconds, Computron checks the countdown page again. The Simac Robotics Museum's commemorative postcard set, $15 for a set of 12, describes Computron as the only known sentient robot, created in 1950 by Dr. Carol Alquist to serve as a laboratory assistant. No known scientist has managed to recreate the doctor's vision. Its steel-framed box and claw design is characteristic of the period. Below that, in smaller print, the postcard thanks the Alquist estate for their generous donation. In the museum, Computron is regarded as a quaint artifact and plays a key role in the robotics then and now performance as an example of the then. After the announcer's introduction to robotics, Computron appears on stage, answers 4 standard queries from the audience as proof of his sentience, and steps off the stage to make way for the rest of the performance, which ends with the android-bodied automaton Tetsuchan showcasing its ability to breakdance. Today's queries are likely to be similar to the rest. A teenage girl waves at the announcer and receives the microphone. "Hi, Computron. My question is, have you watched anime before?" "Yes," Computron vocalizes. "I have viewed the works of renowned actress Anna May Wong. Dr. Alquist enjoyed her movies as a child." No, not that," the girl continues. "I mean Japanese animation. Have you ever watched a show called Hyperdimension Warp Record?" "I have not." Oh, okay, I was just thinking you really looked like one of the characters, but since you haven't, maybe you should give Hyperwarp a shot. It's really good. You might like it. There are 6 episodes out so far, and you can watch it on... The announcer cuts the girl off and hands the microphone over to the next querent, who has a question about Dr. Alquist's research. After answering 2 more standard queries, Computron returns to his storage room to answer his electronic mail, which consists mostly of queries from elementary school students. He picks up 2 metal styluses, one in each of his grasping claws, and begins tapping them on the computing unit's keyboard, 1 key at a time. Computron explains the difference between a robot and an android to 4 students, and provides the 5th student with a hyperlink to Daniel Clement Dennett III's Writings on Consciousness. As Computron readies himself to enter sleep mode, he recalls the teenage girl's request that he give Hyperwarp a shot. It is only logical to research the Japanese animation Hyperdimension Warp Record in order to address queries from future visitors. The title, when entered into a search engine on the World Wide Web, produces about 957,000 results, 0.27 seconds. Computron maneuvers the mouse pointer to the 3rd hyperlink, which offers to let him watch Hyperdimension Warp Record full episodes streaming online high quality. From the still image behind the prominent play button, the gray, boxy figure standing beside the large-eyed, blue-haired human does bear an extremely slight resemblance to Computron's design. It is only logical to press the play button on the first episode in order to familiarize himself with recent discourse about robots in popular culture. The series' 6 episodes are each approximately 25 minutes long. Between watching the series, viewing the online bulletin boards, and perusing the extensive footnoted fan encyclopedia, Computron does not enter sleep mode for 10 hours, 36 minutes, 2 seconds, and 20 milliseconds. Hyperdimension Warp Record, Chōjigen Wapu Rekodo, literal translation, Superdimensional Warp Record, is a Japanese anime series set in space in the far future. The protagonist, Ellison, is an escapee from a supposedly inescapable galactic prison. Joined by a fellow escapee, Cyro, short for cybernetic robot, the two make their way across the galaxy to seek revenge. The targets of their revenge are the 7 Sabers of Paradise, who have stolen the hyperdimensional warp unit from Cyro's creator and caused the death of Ellison's entire family. Episode 7 of Hyperwarp comes with the revelation that the 2nd Saber, Ellison's identical twin, had murdered their parents before faking her own death. After Cyro and Ellison return to the Cosmogram, the last segment of the episode unfolds without dialogue. There is a slow pan across the ship's control area, revealing that Ellison has indulged in the human pastime known as crying before falling asleep in the captain's chair. His chest binder is stained with blood from the wound on his collarbone. Cyro reaches over, gently using his grasping claw to loosen Ellison's binder, and drapes a blanket over him. An instrumental version of the end theme plays as Cyro gets up from his seat, making his way back to the recharging bay at the back of the ship. From the way his footfalls are animated, it is clear that Cyro is trying his best to avoid making any noise as he walks. The credits play over a zoomed-out shot of the Cosmogram making its way to the next exoplanet, a tiny pinpoint of bright blue in the vast blackness of space. The preview for the next episode seems to indicate that the episode will focus on the Saber's initial attempt to activate the hyperdimensional warp unit. There is no mention of Cyro or Ellison at all. During the wait for Episode 8, Computron discovers a concept called fanfiction. While fanfiction is meant to consist of fan-written stories about characters or settings from an original work of fiction, Computron observes that much of the Hyperwarp fanfiction bears no resemblance to the actual characters or setting. For instance, the series that claims to be a spin-off focusing on powerful Cyro seems to involve Cyro installing many large-caliber guns onto his frame and joining the Space Marines, which does not seem relevant to his quest for revenge or the retrieval of the hyperdimensional warp unit. Similarly, the high school fic, in which Cyro and Ellison study at Hyperdimension High, fails to acknowledge the fact that formal education is reserved for the elite class in the Hyperwarp universe. Most of the fan fiction set within the actual series seems particularly inaccurate. The most recent offender is Ellison's wife's Rosemary for Remembrance, which fails to acknowledge the fact that Cyro does not have human facial features, and thus cannot touch his nose against Ellison's hair, breathing in the scent of sandalwood, rosemary, and something uniquely him, before kissing Ellison passionately, needily, hungrily, his tongue slipping into Ellison's mouth. Computron readies his styluses and moves the cursor down to the comment box, prepared to leave anonymous, constructive criticism for Ellison's wife when he detects a comment with relevant keywords. Bjorn Ruffian. Okay, I've noticed this in several of your fics, and I was trying not to be too harsh. But when it got to the kissing scene, I couldn't take it anymore. Cyro can't touch his nose against anything because he doesn't have a nose. Cyro can't slip his tongue into anyone's mouth because he doesn't have a tongue. Were we even watching the same series? Did you skip all the parts where Cyro is a metal robot with a cube-shaped head? Ellison's wife. Who are you? The Fandom police? I'm basing Cyro's design on this piece of fan art. Link here. Because it looks better than a freaking metal box. Anyway, I put don't like, don't read in the author's notes. If you hate the way I write them so much, why don't you just write your own? Computron is incapable of feeling hatred for anything, as that would require Dr. Alquist to have installed emotion circuits during his creation. However, due to Computron's above-average procedural knowledge, he is capable of following the directions to create an account on fanficarchive.org. And Ellison maneuvered his flesh hands in a claw-like motion, locking them with Cyro's own grasping claws. His soft human body pressed against the hard lines of Cyro's proprietary alloy in a manner which would have generated wear and tear had Cyro's body not been of superior make. Fluids leaked from Ellison's eyes. No fluids leaked from Cyro's ocular units, but... Comments 3. Don't got rhythm. Dude, what the hell? Have you ever met a human? This reads like an alien wrote it. Tattered Freedom Wings. This is kind of weird, but I think I liked it. Not sure about the box thing, though. Bjorn Ruffington. Oh my god! Smiley, 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 smiley face. Finally! Someone who doesn't write human-shaped robot in name only Cyro. Some of Ellison's characterization is a little awkward. I don't think he would say all that mushy stuff about Cyro's beautiful boxy shape. But I love your Cyro. If this is your first fic, I can't wait for you to write more. Computron has been spending less time in sleep mode after episode 13's cliffhanger, and he has spent his time conducting objective discussions about Hyperwarp's appeal with commenters on various video streaming sites and anonymous message boards. As he is about to reply to the latest missive about his lack of genitalia and outside social activities, which is technically correct, his internal chronometer indicates that it is time for the robotics then and now performance. So I was wondering, have you ever watched Hyperdimensional Warp Record? There's this character called Cyro that... Yes, I am aware of Hyperwarp, Computron says. I have taken the How to Tell If Your Life is Hyperwarp quiz online, and it has indicated that I am a big Hyperwarp fan. I have repeatedly viewed the scene between Ellison and Cyro at the end of episode 7, and recently I have left a like on Bjorn Ruffian's artwork of what may have happened shortly after that scene, due to its exceptional accuracy. The show is widely regarded as this season's sleeper hit, and has met with approval from a statistically significant number of critics. If other members of the audience wish to view this series, there are 13 episodes out so far, and they can be viewed on... The announcer motions to him, using the same gesture she uses when audience members are taking too long to talk. Computron falls silent until the announcer chooses the next question, which is also the last due to time constraints. After Tetsu-chan has finished its breakdance and showcased its newly programmed ability to pop and lock, the announcer speaks to Computron backstage. She requests that he takes less time for the question and answer segment in the future. Understood, Computron says, and returns to his storage room to check his inbox again. Private message from Bjorn Ruffian. Hi, Robot Fan. I noticed you liked my art. Thanks. And you seem to know a lot about robots, judging from your fic. And, well, your name. I'm doing a fan comic about Ellison and Cyro being stranded on one of the desertish exoplanets while they try to fix the cosmogram. But I want to make sure that I'm drawing Cyro's body right. Are there any references you can recommend for someone who's looking to learn more about robots? Like the classic kind, not the Android kind? It'd be great if they're available online, especially if they have pictures. I've found some books with photos, but they're way more than I can afford. Thank you for any help you can offer. I'm really looking forward to your next fic. Shortly after reading Bjorn Ruffian's message, Computron visits the early robotics section of the museum. It has shrunk significantly over the years, particularly after the creation of the Redefining Human, Androids of the Future, and the Drone Zone sections. It consists of several information panels, a small collection of tin toys, and the remnants of all 3 versions of the Hexode robot. In episode 14 of Hyperdimension Warp Record, Cyro visits a deserted exoplanet alone to investigate the history of the hyperdimension warp drive, and he finds himself surrounded by the deactivated bodies of robots of similar make, claws outstretched, being slowly ground down by the gears of a gigantic machine. The robot recycler scene is frequently listed as one of that year's top 10 most shocking moments in anime. On 7 June 1957, the 3rd version of Hexode fails Dr. Alquist's mirror test for the 100th time, proving that it has no measurable self-awareness. Computron watches Dr. Alquist smash the spanner against Hexode's face, crumpling its nose and lips. Oil leaks from its ocular units as it falls to the floor with a metallic thud. Its vocal synthesizer crackles and hisses. "You godforsaken tin bucket!" Dr. Alquist shouts. "To hell with you!" If Dr. Alquist were to raise the spanner to Computron, it is likely that Dr. Alquist would not have an assistant for any future robotics experiments. Computron stays still, standing in front of the mirror, silently observing the destruction of Hexode so he can gather up its parts later. When Computron photographs Hexode's display case, he is careful to avoid capturing any part of himself in the reflection. Bjorn Ruffian. "Oh man, thank you so much for installing chat just for this. Anyway, I really appreciate your help with the script thus far. I think we can call it a collab by this point. And thanks for the exhibit photos. Was it a lot of trouble? I checked the website and that museum is pretty much in the middle of nowhere." File transfer of thankyurobotfan.png from Bjorn Ruffian started. File transfer of thankyurobotfan.png from Bjorn Ruffian finished. Bjorn Ruffian. "So I've got a few questions about page 8 in the folder I shared. Can you take a look at the second panel from the top? I figured his joint would be all gummed up by the sand, so I thought I'd try to do an X-ray view thing as a close-up. If you have any idea how the circuits are supposed to be, could you double-check?" Bjorn Ruffian. "Okay, you're taking a really long time to type. This is making me super nervous I did everything wrong." Robot Fan. Apologies. Robot Fan. Robot Fan. Am not fast at typing. Bjorn Ruffian. "Okay, I'll wait on the expert here." Robot Fan. "The circuit is connected incorrectly and the joint mechanism is incorrect as well." Bjorn Ruffian. "Ugh, I knew it was wrong." Frowny, frowny, frowny face. Bjorn Ruffian. "I wish the character sheets came with schematics or something. I've paused the flashback scenes with all the failed robots like 10 billion times to take screenshots." Robot Fan. "Besides the scenes in episode 14, there are other shots of Cyro schematics in episode 5 at 17:40:18 and 20:13:50, as well as episode 12, 08:23:14. File transfer of schematic-screenshots.zip from RobotFan started. File transfer of schematic-screenshots.zip from RobotFan finished. Bjorn Ruffian. "Thank you! I swear you're some sort of angel or something." RobotFan. "That is incorrect. I am merely a robot." There are certain things in the museum storage room that would benefit Bjorn Ruffian's mission of completing her Cyro Ellison comic. Computron and Hexode schematics are part of the Alquist collection, which is not a priority for the museum's digitization project due to a perceived lack of value. As part of the Alquist collection himself, there should be no objection to Computron retrieving the schematics. As Computron grasps the doorknob with his left claw, he catches a glimpse of Cyro from episode 15 in the door's glass panels, his ocular units blazing yellow with determination after overcoming his past. In fan parlance, this is known as Determined Cyro, and has only been seen during the fight scenes thus far. It is illogical to have Determined Cyro appear in this context or in this location. Computron looks at the dusty glass again and sees only a reflection of his face. Robot Fan, I have a large file to send you. To be precise, 4 large files. The remaining 3 will be digitized and sent at a later date. File transfer of alquist-archives-scan-part1.zip from Robot Fan started. File transfer of alquist-archive-scans-part1.zip from Robot Fan finished. Bjorn Ruffian. Oh my God, this is awesome! Where did you get this? Did you rob that museum? This is perfect for that other Cyro Ellison thing I've been thinking about doing after this stupid desert comic is over. It would be great if I had someone to help me with writing Cyro, hint hint. Robot Fan. I would be happy to assist if I had emotion circuits. However, my lack of emotion circuits means I cannot be happy about performing any actions. Nonetheless, I will assist. To make this an equitable trade, as is common in human custom, you may also provide your opinion on some recurrent bugs that readers have reported in my characterization of Ellison. Bjorn Ruffian. Yes! Smiley, 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 smiley face. Rossum Sula. Tin Men and Tin Toys. Examining real and fictional robots from the 1950s. Journal of Robotic Studies, 8.2, 2018, pages 25 through 38. While the figure of the fictional robot embodies timeless fears of technology and its potential for harm, the physical design of robots, real and fictional, is often linked to visual cues of modernity. What was once regarded as an object of the future can become overwhelmingly obsolete within the span of a few years, as advances in technology cause the visual cues of modernity to change. Bloch, 1979. The clawed, lumbering tin toy-esque designs of the 1950s are now widely regarded as tin cans that should have been recycled long ago. Williamson, 2017. Notably, most modern critiques of Computron's design tend to focus on its obsolete analog dials. Watch Free Anime, Hyperdimension Warp Record, Episode 23, Live Chat. Pyro. Okay, is it just me, or is Cyro starting to get really attractive? I swear, I'm not gay. Is it gay if it's a robot? But when he slung Ellison over his shoulder and used his claw to block the sixth saber at the same time? Holy shit, that sniper scene right through the scope, and then he fucking bumps Ellison's fist with his claw? Okay, fuck it, I'm gay for Cyro, I don't care. I'll fucking twiddle his dials all he wants after this episode. CK Wizard. Dude, you're too late. We've been finding Cyro hot ever since that scene in episode 15. You know the one. Where you just see this rectangular blocky shadow lumbering towards the first saber with those clunky sound effects. Then his eye bulbs glint really bright yellow and he bleeps out activating kill mode and his grabby claws start whirring. There's a really good fic about it on Fan Archive. Actually, you might as well check the author's blog out here. He's really Cyro obsessed. His earlier stuff is kind of uneven, but the Bjorn collabs are good. She's been illustrating his stuff for a while. Pyro. Okay, I just looked at that thing, the Desert Planet comic. I think I ship it. Oh man, when Ellison tries the manual repair on the arm joint and Cyro has a flashback to the robot recycler but tries to remind himself that he can trust him, yeah, fuck it, I definitely ship it. CK Wizard. Join the fucking club! It's the 5th time I'm watching this episode. This series has ruined my life. Oh, I can't wait for season 2. Bjorn Robot Collabs posted, Hi everyone, Bjorn Ruffian and Robot Fan here. Thanks for all your comments on our first comic collab. We're really charmed by the great reception to In the Desert Sun. Okay, I'm charmed. And Robot Fan says he would be charmed if he had the emotion circuits for that. He's an awesome roleplay partner, too. Love his sense of humor. Smiley, smiley, smiley face. Anyway, it turns out that Robot Fan's got this awesome collection of retro robot schematics, and he's willing to share for those of you who want to write about old-school robots or need some references for your art. Hint, hint, the fandom totally needs more Cyro and Cyro Ellison before Season 2 hits. To be honest, I'm not sure about how legal it is to circulate these scans. Robot Fan says it's fine, though. So just reply to this post if you want them, and we'll private message you the links if you promise not to spread them around. Also, we're going to do another Cyro Ellison comic in the future, and we're thinking of making it part of an anthology. If you'd like to contribute comics or illustrations for that, let us know. Get ready to draw lots of boxes, people. The robot revolution is coming. 9,890 replies. The end.
There is so much I love about this story. And I am obviously not alone from all the attention the story has been getting. One of my favorite things is the pitch-perfect way that Prasad writes the journey of people finding community through fandom. The real-time texts as Computron and Bjorn Ruffian get caught up in the show, and the later journey as people like Pyro and CK Wizard get caught up in the fanfic that Robot Fan and Bjorn Ruffian make together. The journey of Computron from loneliness to happiness is the emotional heart of the story, of course. Beautifully written, and not a bit overdone as she shows us each small beat of him blossoming into this beautiful connection of creation and collaboration. As I've often mentioned, my favorite kind of stories are those that blend humor with drama. And so here, the perfectly lovely story of Computron is developed by all the perfectly lovely bits of truth that are so funny because they are so spot on. I love every time Computron claims not to have emotion or feelings while in the middle of doing something deeply emotional or heartfelt. And I also absolutely love Bjorn Ruffian's first reaction to reading Computron's fic. Bjorn is delighted to find someone writing with authenticity, someone who truly speaks robot. But Bjorn is also not afraid to point out where the robot might have gone astray at attempting to write a human. I don't think Cyro would say all that stuff about his beautifully boxy shape. Cracks me up every time I read it. I don't need to see the actual fic that Computron wrote. It is far more perfect to envision it for myself, as seen through the lens of Bjorn's delighted eyes. Escape Pod is a production of Escape Artists Inc. and is brought to you with a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial No Derivatives license. Don't change it, don't sell it, please go forth and share it. Escape Pod relies on the generous donations of listeners exactly like you, so if you enjoyed our story this week, then consider going to escapepod.org or patreon.com/EAPodcasts and casting your vote for more stories that maneuver their flesh hands in claw-like motions. Our opening and closing music is by Daikaiju at daikaiju.org, and our closing quotation this week is from Kath in Rainbow Rowell's Fangirl, who says, "The whole point of fanfiction is that you get to play inside somebody else's universe, rewrite the rules, or bend them. The story doesn't have to end." Thanks for listening, and have fun.